It is book review Sunday, and like last week, I only have one book to review today, but also like last week, that is a good thing because this book has a lot of building and background information that I need to give you. Otherwise, my review will not make sense. So, the book that I am reviewing today is the Alpha Underground Trilogy, Book One by Aimee Easterling. So, in the title, you can see that it is a trilogy. Today, I am only reviewing Book One. Now, this trilogy is the second of three trilogies in the same world by the same author. So the first trilogy, which I've already read about a year ago, is called Rampant Wolf Hiding from Alpha. And it is that world building information that I'm going to give you right now. I'm not going to go over the plot of the first trilogy because that's a lot. I'm just going to give you the world building so that you know what's going on. So this is a werewolf shifter universe. And werewolves live in packs in this world, which is pretty standard for most werewolf books out there. They have an alpha, which is also pretty standard. And they have what's called the tribunal, the alpha tribunal. And these are the most powerful alphas in the area who, instead of having their own pack, rule over the packs and the alphas. They write the rules and make sure the rules are enforced. And once again, most other werewolf books have some version of this. Sometimes they call them the council, sometimes they call them the elders, sometimes it's a royal family. In this world, they are called the Alpha Tribunal. Now let's dive into the culture. So we have the system of power. What does this look like in a traditional pack? So in a traditional pack, the alpha and any other dominant males are the leaders of the pack, and the women and children are property. They are second-class citizens, and they live to obey and be taken care of by the dominant male wolves. And this is going to be important for our main character's story. So within this, we have these bloodline bigotry, hoity-toity type of culture going on. So if you aren't from certain bloodlines and your mate is, your mate's family is not going to accept you. And so even though there is a fated mate world, a lot of the wolves are not following it because they care more about bloodline. So there's a lot more arranged marriages by their parents rather than fated mates. And then the lowest of the low are going to be what's called a halfie. And a halfie is a werewolf who has a werewolf parent and a human parent, or a werewolf parent and a halfie parent. And the way this works is if they have a son, the son is either going to have a wolf or he's not going to have a wolf. And if he has a wolf, he gets to stay in the pack and he's just fine. And it doesn't matter what his lineage is because he is a full wolf and he's going to pass on his wolf gene. If they have a daughter, she is going to be born as a halfie. And a halfie is half human and half werewolf. They have a wolf, but their wolf is weak. It's hard to shift. It's no matter how much training they do, they're never going to be as strong as a pureblood or a alpha wolf. And I just realized I used that pureblood. It's not used in the book. That's my Harry Potter fan base leaking through. But that is a good connection to help you understand this whole halfie status. It's basically like being a half-blood or a muggle born in the Harry Potter universe, with the, purebloods and the Death Eaters being all bigoted and stuff. So this is our main character for the second trilogy, Alpha Underground Trilogy, is a halfie. Her name is Fen, and she has grown up in a pack that has accepted her regardless of her halfie status, but she's about to get thrown out into the packless world that does not accept her halfie status. And with her are going to be three other packmates from her original pack who are going to try to help her survive the packless world because they do not have a choice. Fen was kicked out of her pack by a tribunal enforcer, and she does not like him, but he's going to insert himself into her life anyway. So let's start with this review. All right, so once again, this is the Alpha Underground Trilogy, Book 1 by Aimee Easterling. I'm going to give Book 1 3 stars. Now it's just Book 1 that's getting 3 stars. And once again, 3 stars is not a bad review. It means that I liked it. So the first thing that I like about this plot is what I call the male acceptance of a mate bond. In these fated mate stories, at the beginning of learning about the mate bond, there are two directions that the story can go from there. They accept the mate bond, which means that the tensions and the drama and the danger is going to come from other sources that is not connected to the mate bond, but is going to challenge the mate bond, or they don't accept the mate bond. And so then the rest of the story is going to be what leads them to accepting the mate bond. Now, in stories where they don't accept the mate bond right away, it's almost always the male half of the mate who doesn't want to accept the mate bond because he's a big, strong alpha, and the female who's been mated to him is weak and or not pretty enough or not from a strong enough bloodline. And so then over time, he realizes he was wrong and all that. And that's not what this is going to be, thank heavens. So Fen's mate, which is the tribunal enforcer who kicked her out of her pack, did so because he wants to help her. He wants her for himself, and if he didn't kick her out, he would have to have her executed for a crime that she committed in the first trilogy. And I use the word crime loosely because from our point of view, it was not a crime. But remember, this is a really weird patriarchal community. And so from their point of view, it is a crime, punishable by death, which once again, in the human world would not be. She is a female alpha, which is also really awesome. We see a lot of male alphas in these werewolf stories and not a lot of female. And so I love the whole strong female leader aspect. I really like the unique terminology and world building. There's just a lot of repetitive word usage in these werewolf books, and the author tried really hard to create her own world separate from that by using words like halfie for wolves who have a human parent and a werewolf parent, or outpack territory, which means that you are in a spot of land that is not owned by any pack. Outpack wolves, wolves who don't live in a pack. And these are all unique terms to this world specifically that you're not going to find in other werewolf books. And last, I really love that the secondary plot to the romance plot is high stakes and full of action and drama and danger. For me, my romances need to have action and drama and danger to them. And Aimee delivers. She absolutely delivers with this story. So the secondary plot, which I would actually argue is probably more of the main plot, and the romance plot between Fen and Hunter is the secondary plot because their romance is going to continue into the later books. So what's going on is there is a group of shifters who are kidnapping and killing halfies, and by killing these halfies, they are then taking their power for themselves. So Fen is a halfie, we already know that, so she is in danger. And then one of her pack mates, Leah, is also a halfie. So they have to protect each other. Their pack has to protect them, but they also need to find out who's doing this so that they can save some other halfies who have been kidnapped, and hopefully they can get to them before they die. There are two things that I struggled with, and I will admit that with both of them, as I'm now almost done with the second book, are not too bad, but looking at it as a book one on its own, it was not my cup of tea as a reader. But that doesn't mean that other readers won't like it. This might be perfect for someone else. And I still do like the book. I'm reading the second one, so I liked it enough to continue reading. So the first thing is that Fen's mental progress and acceptance of her wolf and of the mate bond is a little too slow for me. I'm okay with her starting out the story unsure of herself, weak. I like flawed characters who grow and improve by the end of the book. But the growth wasn't enough for me by the time we get to the first book. But like I said, I'm almost done with the second book, and her growth has been tenfold since the beginning of the first book. So it's clear that her growth is not a single book journey. It is a multi-book journey, and that's okay. The second thing is that the villain in the first book was too obvious. I got it right away. And now sometimes we know who the villains are right away, but this was written for it to be kind of like a mystery. Who is the villain? Who is the leader of this group that's kidnapping these girls? And it was very, very obvious who it was for the reader, but it's not obvious for Fen. And so it's incredibly frustrating for the reader to watch her make mistake after mistake after mistake, trusting the wrong person. And I will argue that that is probably okay for other readers. So this doesn't make the author a bad writer. This doesn't make the story a bad story. Just for what I like in a book, that was hard for me. But once again, I still enjoyed it enough to keep reading. The ending was still good. And I think that when I get to the third book and I give the entire trilogy an overall score, it will probably be higher because I'm already loving the second book. So if you like werewolves, if you like romance, if you like danger, check out the Alpha Underground Trilogy.